Jai Hind everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel, which is Explore Yourselves, Banking, and General Knowledge, etc. Memoir of my banking journey by Mr. V.H. Ramakrishnan, retired General Manager of Bank of India. Episode number 23. The chapter Kenyan Safari is continuing. The link of earlier episodes is available in description. Sohali at gunpoint. Second shock. Still early days in Nairobi. One afternoon, I was standing outside our advances department room and talking to a local officer called Johnson. It was around 3:30 p.m. Main door was closed. We had a big gate on the back side through which the cars can come to the parking lot for bank officials. One security guard would be there manning the big gate. The security guard was called Askari in Sohali. After the parking lot, there was a door to the building, a small door like in our houses, which also was guarded by another Askari. Once you entered through this door, on the left side washrooms were there. On the right side there was another open door through which you can enter the banking hall. From outside my room I could see this entrance to the banking hall. While talking to Mr. Johnson, I had a glimpse of one of our good customers, Mr. Bhatt, headmaster of a government school and a rich person, entering the banking hall with both hands raised. Before that was registered in my mind, we heard a shot. I thought firecracker and a big shout, Lala Chin. I asked Johnson what was happening, dragging me inside the room. He said they were armed robbers. He bolted the door from inside and said Lala Chini meant lie down. What had happened was this. Mr. Bhatt came through the back door. Since he was a regular customer known to everyone, the Askari allowed him. When he was about to enter, three or four local people also joined him with a gun at his back. The Askaris were not armed, so they could enter the banking hall. After they shouted Lalachini, the entire staff put their head down on the tables in front of them. I was in a closed room. There also the local staff had put their head down on the table. There was a window behind my seat opening into the road. Johnson and I drew the attention of the passers-by and requested them to call the owner of next door courier shop. The courier shop was owned by Mrs. Jai, wife of Mr. S.L. Jai, who was an ex-officer of Bank of India. He was a contemporary of Mr. Buddha and Sukla. After his tenure, he resigned, and the next day he was given Kenyan citizenship by the then president, Mr. Jomo Kenyatta. He was reported to be quite close to Kenyatta. Mr. Jai had his own industry and was loved by the Bank of India's local staff. He was a daily visitor to the bank. His wife was running this shop next door. We requested her through the window to inform the police about the robbery. In the meanwhile, the robbers reached the cash counter, which was at the end of the banking hall. Mr. Majumdar and Mr. Maniar were sitting in the banking hall. The cashier had just then put all the money, I think about 5 million shillings, in the box to be taken to the safe deposit vault. They snatched this box and on the way back they also took away the jacket and watch of Mr. Majumdar. One of the lady clerks was in the ladies' washroom. It had a ventilator through which she shouted to the passers-by about the robbery. The robbers did not hurt anybody. They went through the back door and got into their car and were leaving. Just then the police jeep came and started chasing them. The chase continued until they were out of the town. Nairobi is a small city. Within minutes you might be out of the town. Our CE was not in the office when all this commotion took place. Now the interesting twist to the story, which we learned from the newspapers the next day. After the chase continued, even after crossing the city, the police finally cornered the robbers at an isolated place. Now the robbers overpowered the police and escaped in the police jeep. The rumor was, at this point, the loot was shared between the robbers and the police. We do not know what happened except for the screaming headlines in the newspapers. Robbers had escaped in the police vehicle. Back to the office. All of us were shaken and had worried look in our face. The only person who was laughing and smiling was Mr. Majumdar. He was calm and composed. The famous Tamil poet Tiruvalluvar, who lived more than 2000 years ago, had said in one of his famous couplets, Idukan Barungal Naguga, meaning when you face difficulties, you should laugh it away. I think Majumdar was just doing that. Mr. Limdi came with a serious and worried face and listened to the narration. Then he requested Majumdar to report to head office, first over phone. Mr. Majumdar called that executive at head office and was narrating the whole episode in his own style, laughing and smiling throughout. Within a week, the robbers were caught and brought to court. The trial started immediately, and within 2 or 3 weeks, punishment, I think 5 years rigorous imprisonment was awarded, but no money was recovered. Of course, the bank claimed the money from the insurance company, which was very fast in settling the amount. After the above robbery attempt, we tightened the security. While customers could reach the counters without difficulty, no one was allowed to enter the other side of the counter. Mr. Mujumdar was sitting in the banking hall. Behind him, a grill door was fixed and an askari was placed there. If anyone wanted to meet the accountant or other officers, they were asked to fill in the small slip and permission would be obtained from them to enter. Proud owner of a car. In about 6 months, I had built up enough funds to meet the margin money for taking a loan for buying a car. I started looking at the advertisements in the newspapers. Nothing was suitable. Finally, I came across an advertisement by a Japanese expatriate for selling his car. We had one good customer and friend called Jayanti Bhai. He was a dealer in tires and was always helpful to the expatriates. People like Jayanti Bhai never expected anything in return. I took him to see the car. It was a white Toyota Corolla, 1300cc. I remember the number KRA 505. Within 5 minutes, Jayanti Bhai told me that it was a good car and I should clinch the deal. I did that. Luckily, I had a driving license. Even though I did not own any car, I took a driving license in India. In fact, this was the first car bought by me. I used to ride a bicycle in my college days. I never went for a scooter or motorbike. For a few years, my father had an old Austin A40. I learned my driving in that car. First thing I did after buying the car was to go to the Nagara market to buy all the vegetables and other items. My whole family loved the car. We bought a lot of items and then drove the car through the same road by which we used to walk to the market. It is very difficult to describe the happy feeling at that time. When we were returning, I noticed that the car was going slowly, did not pick up speed, got worried. Then I realized that in my anxiety, I had not released the handbrake. No TV. We did not have a TV in India. We decided not to buy a TV in Kenya. Color TV was available in Kenya, whereas in India it was introduced only in 1982, coinciding with Asian Games. We thought it would affect the studies of my son, who had to appear for a national examinations at the end of primary school. At that time, the local stations used to broadcast some popular English and American serials. One of them was Dallas Made in US. Almost every day, Mania used to discuss about the developments in this serial. It was the story of a Texas business family. The most interesting character was JR, the ruthless eldest son. I was very keen to see this serial. Ultimately, I saw all the episodes when I was in Nigeria. One of my good friend and customer, Mr. Lakotia, had recorded all the episodes in video. No DVD in those days. When I was staying alone in Lagos for about a year, I watched the episodes at the rate of 3 per day. Very absorbing story. To cut it short, till we left Nairobi, we never had a TV. Even VCDs were rare in those days. Once Mr. Trivedi, a local officer, invited us to his house for lunch, followed by a movie in English shown through a video player. Telpis. I had written earlier that Birla Group had a good presence in Kenya. Once the Birla family traveled for a board meeting and booked all the first class seats in an Air India flight. When Air India knew this, they prepared as a special case, only vegetarian meals for first class. When they were about to serve, the Birla family told them, "We have brought our own food," and opened various containers with typical Marwari food. Needless to say, Air India was disappointed. P.S. There was another daring robbery during the tenure of P. Sannal, who was the chief executive of Kenya branches. You may recollect about the robbery episode. I had sent my postings to Mr. Majumdar. He has written what exactly happened to him. Quote, Doctor's initials are RB, Ramakant B. Doctor. The sequence of event of robbery was as follows. I also saw NC Bhatt entering with his hands raised. Before I could guess anything, the seven-footer fired a shot into the ceiling with his AK-47 and jumped over our big counter and came over to me and held me by the neck. Then he asked me, Papi Paisa. Then I extended my left hand and showed him the cash cages. Then he saw my watch and snatched it. Then he told me, Lala Chini. By the gestures of his hand, I understood that he was asking me to lie down. I did. Then he went to the counters. Paper report said there were six. The one with me was dead drunk. My jacket was not taken. Actually, in the left inside pocket, I had vault keys, and that day we had almost 40 MKs that was saved. What that took was less than 1 million, out of which almost half was in coins. You know how heavy and big are the Kenyan coins. It was rumored that they could not carry that box and abandoned in the way. By the way, Maniar was not there. He was out on a stroll. Unquote. What a frightening experience. Lunches and dinners galore. Readers may be feeling that I am writing too much about dinners and lunches, but eating good food is a way of enjoying life. You would have read about the peculiar features of Sindhi lunches and dinners in my Nigerian experiences. The experience I had in Kenya with Gujaratis and Punjabis was quite different. Many of the customers used to invite the officers for dinner at home. There was only one typical Gujarati restaurant in the city called Supreme in those days, but no one used to invite you to a restaurant for dinner except for officer lunches and dinners at top restaurants. I am told nowadays there are many more than 20 Indian restaurants, and the practice of calling home for dinner was almost vanished. What a pity! Invitations from customers for dinner was something new to me, as such a practice was not prevalent in South in those days. Besides, even if you are seen with a customer in a hotel, rumors will start that you are corrupt. So I felt hesitant initially to accept the invitations. But all my colleagues told me that this was the local practice and no obligations were involved. Later on, this was also confirmed by Mr. D.N. Sukla, ex-ED. He had spent many years in Kenya before 1970. Once when he visited Nairobi, during my time, a customer hosted a dinner for Mr. Sukla and invited all the expatriates. At that time, we had one officer who was earlier in HO, a brilliant officer, but too rigid with his own strong standards of ethics. Shukla told him in a loud voice, Come on, X, enjoy your dinner. No obligations involved. You can say no to Patel tomorrow. I also noticed an interesting behavior amongst expatriates. If someone invites an officer, he would not reveal to others that he would be going to a particular customer place. He would only say, Someone has called me for dinner. Ultimately, we would all find ourselves at the same place in the night. It was also a practice not to invite the chief executive along with other officers. This was done mainly to make the officers at ease during the dinner. But I heard later about one incident which happened much later after I left. It appears one of the customers invited the chief executive and other officers together. After the dinner, the wife of the chief executive called the hostess aside and told her that in future they should not invite them along with other officers who are all junior to them. This was told to me by the customer when he called on me in India. I am writing this to show how power works on people. There was a bankers club in Nairobi. They used to have a quarterly dinner at Mutiaga Club, a highly sophisticated place. Mr. Limdi used to take one local officers and one expatriate officers with him by turn. Benegal went there before I landed. He gave such a graphic descriptions of the club, gathering and dinner that I was looking forward for my turn. You cannot enter the club unless you are in a full suit. The food was reported to be of very high quality. In due course, my turn came. Sony, a local officer, was with me. Benegal was quite right. The club was originally set up for Englishmen to spend their time. We could see the traces of colonial practices. For those who drink, it was an ideal place. Mr. Limby knew I was a teetotaler Still, he almost trapped me. He gave me Campari and said there was no alcohol in it. I had half a mind to take it. Then Sony came to me and whispered in my ear, little alcohol. I quietly kept it down and took ginger ale. There was good vegetarian spirit. In view of the Gujarati population, vegetarian food was not a problem in Nairobi. Somehow later on, the practice of officers accompanying the chief executive to the club was discontinued. Gujarati dinners used to finish early. They would start around 8 p.m. and by 10 p.m. you could leave. The elderly ladies in the house used to take pride in cooking typical Gujarati food. There is one major difference between the Nigerian dinners and Kenyan dinners. In Nigeria, Sindhis will always talk of only businesses and market conditions. Gujarati used to talk about various subjects including Indian politics, movies, cricket, etc. Most interesting experience was during weekends. Soon after I joined, I got an invitation from a Gujarati customer for his nephew's wedding. I consulted Maniar as to whether I should attend. Maniar was an expert in these things. He told me that it was customary for the customers to invite us for weddings in their families. We should attend such weddings. Our community weddings were held in their marriage hall called Mahajanwadi. Maniar also told me that there was no need to carry any gifts. Further, no need to go and greet the couple. You need not worry about Muharat. You were expected to go only at lunchtime, around noon, have your food and come back. No need even to meet the persons who invited you. They would get the message. I had tested this also. Once I did not go for a wedding. On Monday morning, the customer asked me as to why I did not turn up. This system saved a lot of time. Two interesting things I noticed in the Sa community weddings. They would keep on serving sweets and vegetables, no sign of rotis. If someone asked for roti, they would comment, "Are you an old man?" Second, the serving would be by the members of the community. I once saw Manu Chandaria of Chandaria Group, big multinational and also our advisory committee member, serving jalebis. Patels used to invite you for their wedding, invariably during Saturday evenings. They were held at Patel's club. Again, same procedure. Straight to the buffet for dinner. At Mahajanwadi, it was a sit-down lunch. At Patel's, it was a buffet. Almost 75% of the weekends we would be having these lunch and dinner invitation. So no cooking at home. On Sunday mornings, I used to go to Nagara market around 8 a.m. There was a Gujarati shop where freshly made jalebi and ghatia would be sold. There would be a queue there. I used to order takeaway and bring them home. We all used to sit and enjoy the breakfast. Those in London staying in Wembley would have heard about Maru's Bhajias. An enterprising Gujarati gentleman called Maru started a small restaurant making only bhajias, mainly aloo bhajias in Nairobi. Later he sold his business to a Kenyan and moved out to London. The outfit continued in the same name. On Sunday evenings, there used to be a big queue in front of the shop for the bhajias. Go down parties. One day, Mr. Manjit Singh Oberoi, soft-spoken Sardarji from Delhi and also the brother-in-law of Mr. Mahinder Singh Bora, more about Bora later, was telling us that it was high time we had a go-down party. He had settled down in Nairobi and had a manufacturing unit in the industrial area. Manyar explained to me that it was a stag party organized at the factory. I was quite curious. So the invitation came to us to come to the factory on the Saturday evening. Mr. Oberoi had a Kenyan partner called Mr. Joe, a very jovial person who used to greet us cheerfully in Hindi. At 8 p.m. we reached the factory. The cooking was done by the males only. It was like a barbecue. In one pot, some non-veg items were made. There was another oven on which some khichdi was made to take care of vegetarians. This party lasted till almost midnight. It was a different type of experience. Beer drinking on Sundays. Kenya is famous for beer. Kenyans used to drink warm beer. Beer price was regulated by the government. Even five-star hotels could not charge more than the stipulated price. No special service charges. So quite a few of the members of the Indians, local and expertise, would start from their house on Sundays to a five-star hotel and order beer. They would move from one five-star hotel to another five-star hotel till around 2 p.m. Then they would go to a restaurant or home for lunch. Unlimited coffee. Hilton used to offer unlimited refill of coffee. Unfortunately, this practice was stopped very soon after I landed there. I was not responsible for that. New Stanley Hotel was a five-star hotel belonging to the Bora family, referred above. It was in a prime location opposite to our bank. They had a coffee shop called Throne Tree. It was in the corner of Kenyatta Avenue and another major road. To sit there and sip coffee in a cold morning was a heavenly experience. For coffee lovers, there was one more place. People in India are familiar with Indian coffee house where we get good filter coffee. In Nairobi, there was a coffee house ran by the Kenyan Coffee Board. Excellent coffee with pleasant aroma. I used to quietly sneak out once in a while around 11:30, rush there at 10 minutes brisk walk, and enjoy the rich coffee in the pleasant weather and rush back to the office. I knew one of our old customers who was going there every working day for more than 30 years and used to have coffee with a couple of friends. If my memory is right, there were five Indian restaurants by the time I left in 1984. Besides the Supreme, there was Satkar offering South Indian items, an Indian restaurant inside Ambassador Hotel, Boraj, minor takes next to our bank, but on the backside, and one in Westlands. No drinks at home. Many of the Gujarati housewives were very orthodox. One of our good customers had the habit of drinking at least two packs of whiskey every evening. His wife had put a ban on drinking at home, so he would go to a club every evening for having his quota of drink. Since he could not sit alone and drink, he would always take a friend or two to give him company. This he did for over 35 years. Local food habits. Kenya's staple food was corn flour. The government always ensured that there was adequate supply of corn flour. Next was bread. I had seen Askaris, security guards, having lunch consisting of a full loaf of bread and a cake, coke. Many of our clerks would go for fish and chips. The officers would go to small cafeterias where you can fill your plates with items selected from the food counter and pay the bill. Pub culture. One day, Peter, the chief cashier, asked me as to which pub I would go after my work in the office. He was surprised to learn that I never went to a pub. He said, for a Kenyan, you must go to pub and have beer before going home. I saw in one of the primary school textbooks which described the life pattern of Kenyans. It was mentioned men go to the bar after a day's work. Expatriates and drinking. Many of the expatriates who were teetotalers started drinking in Kenya. They always started with beer and then graduated to whiskey. A few in the bank also started drinking after coming to Nairobi. Mr. Endisa, as a host, would persuade everyone to drink with such love and affection that many found it difficult to resist him. One day he admitted to me that only in my case he had failed. I took it as a compliment. India based officers and dinners. Each officer had his own circle of friends. Initially, we had a practice of having dinner at each one's house by rotation. It went on for a year. Then someone broke the chain. We always enjoyed such meeting with families. It made the families closer to each other. Children used to have a gala time. I also had a group of friends from our community and we used to meet open over dinner at someone's house. Once one Mr. Chandramouli invited me and a few friends for dinner. He informed me that he had also invited his boss, who was a Pakistani. As you know, we cannot identify Pakistani by looks. I had a friend who used to express his opinions openly. Suddenly, he started saying something about Pakistan. I had to pinch him hard and then whisper to him that we had a Pakistani in our midst. Unforgettable seven-course lunch. You do not forget some lunches or dinners. Once Mr. N.P. Thakkar, who was the chief executive in 1903, and I went for a visit to factory manufacturing some heavy items. Pre-sanction inspection. It was owned by an Israeli. He had invited us for lunch, and after the lunch, we had to go around the unit. His secretary was also from Israel. He had an anteroom next to his cabin where the lunch table was set. They started serving course after course. We were wondering whether we are sitting in a five-star hotel. Each course was served under the close watch of the secretary. Once the main course was over, imported cheese were served. That was followed by ice cream. We thought that would be the last item. No, hot coffee was poured in beautiful imported cups. We are about to get up, but high quality imported chocolates were placed on the table. Well, that was the last course. Needless to say, we moved around the factory with great difficulty. The above incident also brings to my mind the contrast between two lunches I had in different airlines. I was traveling from Lagos to New York by Lufthansa by first class. In the Frankfurt, New York sector, we were served with lunch. The German flight attendants started serving at about 1:30 p.m. The serving was very leisurely with long gaps between each course. In fact, I started dozing off in between courses. Finally, when coffee was served, it was 3:30. I also had a lunch in Air India flight in first class. The flight attendants were in such a hurry as if they were going to catch another flight. Before I could finish, the main course desserts were brought. The lunch was over in half an hour. In both cases, I have excluded the time taken for serving the drinks before lunch. I am sure things might have improved nowadays. With all that, I would say that I enjoyed and continue to enjoy the food in Air India. Tailpiece. Mr. Pyarelal, name change, was one of our solid customers. He could talk Swahili, Gujarati, and Hindi, but very little English. He was reported to be a multi-millionaire in dollars, but he was very miserly. The story goes that once his son had two helpings of pickles. Immediately he told his son, Beta, this is not vegetables. Take only a small quantity. He once formed a limited company. We approved some facilities for the company. The documents were to be executed. I told him he has to make a common seal. He said, No, no, no. Rubber stamp chalega. I explained to him patiently the difference between common seal and rubber stamp. I had roughly drawn a picture of common seal. Still half convinced, he said he agreed to make a seal. He went up to the door and came back and asked me, Should it be a big or can I make a small one? And showed me his ring for size. I laughed and told him it could be small. After the loan was sanctioned and all formalities were completed, he was very happy. He then told me you should come home for tea one day. I could not believe my ears. As confirmed my money letter, Perilal had never invited anyone for lunch or dinner or tea in the history of Bank of India. I told him that I would definitely come. He went to the door and came back and clarified, Sir, chai or kuch nahi, only tea, nothing else. It was a clear indication I should not expect samosa or biscuits with tea. Controlling my laughter, I told him that is perfectly okay with me. He walked away, but alas, the actual invitation mentioning a date never came. 2. Post missing. Krishnan, name change, was the number 2 in India. He was a Palghat Brahmin with good Malayalam accent. He once invited me and my wife for dinner at the Indian restaurant in the Hotel Ambassador. We reached at 8 p.m. There was no sign of the host. The restaurant manager said no table was booked by Krishnan. Anyway, we waited. We had some soft drinks. It was 9 p.m. Still no sign of the host. I telephoned his house. To my surprise, he himself answered the call. I told him we are waiting for him. He said casually that he had a guest at home and would not be able to make it. He made a formal apology. My guess was he totally forgot that he had invited us. Anyway, we had a dinner at my cost. I did not take it seriously, out of my respect for Air India. The chapter Kenyan Safari will continue. Thank you very much for your patience. Request for like, subscribe, and share.